This episode, the Cyclone Bomb, the plumbing retrospective. Well, folks, the Great Cyclone Bomb of 2022 has come and gone. Johnny and I already talked about HVAC. Now it's time to talk about plumbing. We learned a bunch of stuff during this massive cold spell. Welcome to the Handyman Pros radio show. Home improvement and maintenance tips from the pros. Thanks for listening to another edition of the Handyman Pros radio show, where our goal is to help save you time, money, and aggravation on your home maintenance and repair. This edition is entitled The Cyclone Bomb, a plumbing retrospective. I'm here with Johnny. Johnny, we had lots of fun times.
Fun was had by all.
The big cold snap. Folks, we did a show on HVAC systems. This probably would be last week at this point. So, you need to, before you listen to plumbing, you need to listen to HVAC, because if your HVAC system's working right, hopefully your plumbing is in better shape than not. So that's the, hopefully, right? If your heat fails, you got big issues, because you're going to have a plumbing problem. If your plumbing fails, now you just have to worry about flooding, and that's kind of a different thing. So that's why we did it that way. But anyway, we wanted to start this off just really simple. John's got some plumbing stories. I've got some plumbing stories, but we wanted to talk about thermodynamics. It's all about differential. End of story. That's all I'm going to say, right? You just got to keep the temperature up on your plumbing. Johnny, tell me some stories, baby.
Well, as we mentioned in the last episode, is that this cyclone bomb, this thing really rolled in at the worst time of the year.
Terrible.
Everybody around here, it was, no matter where you're at, you have family in, or you're visiting people or whatever. And this thing hits, and man, the stories coming out. I mean, it's all over the news. It's a mess. Now for me, I'm downstairs, I'm in my basement with family, and, we just happen to look up, and, it's raining in the basement. So, I kept my cool. I immediately went right over and I turned the master off, the master valve off to the house. Stopped that immediately, opened up the ceiling, and, it was my...
Come on, Johnny, tell the truth. You were screaming like a little girl.
No, I was really, and I have to give myself a little bit of applause here. Nothing out of hand. I just, methodically worked through this problem.
Yep.
Because there was nothing else I could do. And, it was the spigot.
Right? Yeah.
And what happened was that, they put the shutoff valve on the spigot on the inside there, so close to the wall that it burst below that and above that valve. So if I couldn't fix that,
that's crazy.
Well,
by the way,
if I couldn't fix that, I couldn't turn the water back on to the house.
Right.
Because I had no way to shut it off. So I made a clamshell out of a couple of pieces of PVC that I had, 1/2 inch, and I had 2 hose clamps, and I clamped it around there, and it stopped it.
Johnny's a magic man, folks.
So I could turn that valve off. So
yeah,
below it was off, but above it, I fixed that leak, and I'm like, whew. So anyways, I'll tell you what, I went down to Home Depot the next day, and the plumbing aisle was filled with plumbers.
Yeah, that was Monday when you did that.
Monday.
The next day was Christmas Day. Yes, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
And it was very well. It did happen on Christmas, actually.
Yeah, on Christmas Day.
So and man, all the products in that aisle were just flying off,
disappearing.
The shelf.
Poof. Yes.
And
yes.
Anyways, I got it fixed, and but it's one of those things where I was surprised that it caught me off guard like that, because I've lived in this house for almost close to 30 years, and it's never even come close to that. And this is how this was such an event that rolled through here. It was unbelievable. So
Yeah, truly a
yeah,
what they call a black swan event. It's a probably once in a lifetime. Of course, we say that it'll happen again, but it's still it's a extremely rare for us to get these kinds of ultra. What I even called this ultra cold when I lived in Rochester. Single digits was always that was cold.
yeah,
I don't care.
yeah.
It was
Oh
cold,
yeah,
right? When it was
yeah.
single digits. And so yeah, so anyway, so yeah, you had that experience. I had some somewhat similar experiences. I had some clients call me and they actually took pictures. There was one particular client, he takes a picture and he shows me underneath his outside wall of his kitchen sink, and he literally, his CPVC pipe was shattered underneath the sink. Now, no water was coming out because it was frozen flipping solid, right? And of course, my first thing was, I said to him, I said, go out and shut your water main off. And what did he answer, John?
Where is it?
Yeah, what is my water main?
Yeah.
And so, one of the things we want to stress, once again, we beat this to a dead horse, folks. We beat it to a dead horse and we beat it to a dead horse, and we're going to beat the dead horse again. Know where your water shutoffs are, both in your house and out on the street. He went out. I told him, go out on the street, look for a metal box, open it up. There's going to be a valve. He FaceTimed me. We got out there. He took a pair of pliers and he turned the water main off.
Yeah.
And thank God he did, because later on in that afternoon, it warmed up a little bit. And he sends me a video. He's like, why is there water spraying on my floor? And I said, here's the deal. Your water's off at the meter, right? He goes, yeah. And then even in his video, you can see where it stops, where the water flow stops. Well, that was just the residual pressure in the pipes from being on the freeze up, and thank God. And long story short, he had 2 frozen pipes and we fixed them on Monday, after this all happened, and blah, 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 and so forth and so on. But man, I'm telling you, if he hadn't had the wherewithal to call me, he would have had, a flood like crazy, because it just would have poured.
Yeah.
So that's what we wanted. We wanted to have some discussion about plumbing and this, and this cyclone bomb. So one thing, John, let's just talk a little bit about geography. I hate to say this, geography and building codes and building practices, right? I think when I lived in Western New York, right, in upstate New York, where it gets cold, folks, all winter long, we had building codes that were what do I want to say? They were appropriate for the climate in that area. For example, every water line needed to be buried at least 3 feet down, because we would get frost 2 feet down into the ground. And you probably had similar things in Chicago, right? Here in Atlanta, they bury them maybe 12 inches, maybe.
Yeah. Yep.
And go ahead.
I was going to say, you're bringing up a good point here, because the building codes, I'm sure, are going to be changing here because of this. And what got me was even commercial buildings were popping everywhere down here.
Yeah, the Atlanta airport got shut down.
It was incredible. You would think at a commercial site that they would, bury pipes deeper. They would do something, a little bit more stringent than, maybe a residential. But I was shocked to see all these buildings popping water lines everywhere.
Yeah, really common actually in the area, in the greater Atlanta area. We'll call it that. But so those building codes and or building practices are just basically based on the local climate. And I know, we all in upstate, when I lived in upstate, if you were building anything, you thought about it, because of course, winter up there lasts from basically.
Yeah, so you're thinking about it.
Yeah, you're thinking about it. It's a good 6 months of the year. It's freaking frozen,
right.
So you're thinking about it. Down here in the South, not quite so much. This really, truly for us was truly a black swan event, in that it doesn't get into the single digits. I think since I've lived in Atlanta, Johnny, which has been almost 40 years, I guess, at this point, we've had, I can remember 2 days when it's been single digits, 2. And had the same problems on both of those 2 days.
And it doesn't last that long. Like this one here really cold soaked everything. So that was really the issue.
Didn't get above freezing for 3 days at my house.
Exactly.
External temperature.
Exactly. So yeah, like you were saying, you need to know where the valves are.
Know where your valves are, because come on, really. And a second thing, because this was Christmas, right? We've said this before, but folks, if you're going on vacation, go turn the master off.
Yep.
Just do it.
Yep.
You know, it takes you 2 seconds. There's people that are going to come home from vacation here like uh today. This is we're recording it right before New Year's. You know, Johnny, you know this. There's going to be people that come home from vacation today, and they're going to have 6 inches of water in their house. You know,
Yeah, it's you know, I think on the other episode, my my friend was telling me he lives over in Woodstock that his
Yep.
people were, water is just cascading down their driveways.
Yep. Yep.
And they're on vacation.
Yep. And you can't get in the house. You can't, you can get
Yeah,
in the house, you're going to break in, but I'm not doing that.
So
right?
I mean, it's you need to take these precautions. I mean, I got I had a couple messages, and I looked on like Nextdoor, and people were saying that they've got to replace 2 floors in their home.
Yeah. And it's not the, insurance will cover it and so forth and so on, but it's the time and it's the displacement.
Yeah.
You're going to be out of that house for
Yeah.
a long time. It's going to be a long time. Just shut the valves off. And this can, even in the summertime, right? This isn't necessarily a cold weather
this all
thing.
the time is that,
all the time.
Whenever I go, even if I go out of town just for a weekend, I turn the water off because you never know what could,
never.
What can happen.
So anyway, know where your valves are and turn them off when you go on vacation. If you're out of the house and especially like in this one, again, we talked about this in the other show. We knew this cyclone bomb was coming for a week or more, just go on.
Yeah.
Hey, because the other side of it is, John, and you and I know this because we've lived in cold climates. What happens if the power goes off?
Oh man, it's life and death.
Well, yeah, but all of a sudden your heating doesn't work. I don't care if you have gas or not. You have no way to distribute the heat throughout the house. So unless you got a generator, you've got no heat in your house
or
at
a
that
fireplace
point.
or something. But you're right. I mean, if you do lose power, and I will say that the thing about this this weather event that we had could have been a hell of a lot worse. If there was moisture in the air, for instance, we would still be in the middle of an ice event right now. Which then, if you had an issue, you're not getting anybody out there to fix it
because they can't. They can't even move, kind of thing. Yeah. And so these are kind of the things that you and I think about because we deal in this world a lot, like we'll be busy with this. This is going to create a lot of work, not a negative. Well, it is a negative way for the most part. A lot of it is avoidable. That's what we're trying to help you with is how to avoid it. Right.
Yeah. And a couple of little tips here of, maybe you create a little, a kit going forward, and I'm going to, of being able to do an emergency repair on pipes. They have
shark bites, baby, are wonderful.
Well, shark bites, or they have just those pipe clamps, right? It's like Das Boot.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
And just clamp like I did with the PVC. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to just buy a couple of those, and I'm going to keep them someplace just in case I have another emergency somewhere, that I can just clamp that pipe, because I will tell you that you're stuck.
Well, I would, my suggestion would be go buy yourself, 2, like 1 or 2, shark bite end caps. They actually make a cap that you just push on, and it's so if, like in your case, you could have just cut the pipe, stuck that thing on there, and you can take it off in the future with the release tool, right? But you stick that thing back on there, you stop the water flow, now you're good to go.
So there's a good tip right there, folks, is that, be prepared for things like that, and you won't get caught flat-footed, because you're
going to spend $15 on 2 of those, one for 3/4 inch, one for half inch,
you're done.
And you're done. And stick them someplace where you won't lose them.
Yep.
I'm going to say that's probably a bigger issue. I have them in my box because I use them when I'm doing plumbing jobs to actually test pressure on pipes. I test the pressure with them. But, gosh, you just slap them on there. You're done. You don't have to worry about it. You can do the repair later, right? But you're getting through the emergency time straight away, And so that's it. So we touched on this. We need to just mention it. So have an idea where your supply side pipes actually run in your home, right? You don't need to map them out and all that stuff. But for example, if you have a shower, this is common again, folks, in the South. I've never seen it in the North, right? But in the South, people will put showers on the outside wall. Well, understand if you've got the valve on the outside wall, there's plumbing that runs in that wall. So you need to understand that. You need to understand that for a couple of different reasons. You can avoid this by doing what I call it zone heating. So take a little electric heater and stick it in that bathroom and aim it right at the wall and turn it up and just let it heat that wall, right? And that'll stop that thing from freezing. You only got to keep it above 32 for a while. And believe it or not, you don't have to add that much heat to keep that thing above heating. And I would tell you, if you have issues, anywhere, you can do what I call that zone heating, or just whatever you want to call it, but put a heat source in there. It can be a light bulb for that matter, just a regular incandescent light bulb. Don't put an LED light bulb in there. They don't throw any heat off. But a regular incandescent light bulb. Back in the day, Johnny, when we lived up north, in a well house, you used to keep lights on in there all the time just to keep it above freezing. And it worked. Mm-hmm. It worked. You insulated the box, but you only had to keep it at 39 degrees, and a light bulb would put off 100 watts worth of power, would keep it above 32 degrees. It seems simple, but it's really that simple. Understand, too, really this is critical here, and I suppose anywhere, but do you have any plumbing running in a crawl space, either above or below? And I'm below, generally not so much an issue unless you've got a finished basement. Like you do, John, where you got a finished basement. But above for sure, because if the pipe breaks above, you flooded everything. And folks, to give you perspective, it means you need new drywall, you need basically you're going to gut your house. That's what you're going to end up doing.
Oh, yeah.
You're going to gut your house because you're going to have water. It's going to be in the drywall. It's going to be in your flooring. It's going to be in your cabinets. It's going to be in everything that's below it. Becomes in danger, in peril at that point. So no, if you have it up there, understand it's there, do something in advance about it, either put insulation over the top of it or whatever, but keep it warm enough so that it doesn't freeze. And don't assume that it won't. You can make insulation, just for example. John, do squirrels like to chew on insulation?
Yeah, it's kind of funny. Speaking of that, I learned one thing. They don't like the yellow insulation, but they like the red. So they
really.
Yeah, so they were in my attic and they took all the red insulation out
to make nests. Is what they use it for.
Yeah. Well, they were in my attic in a nest, but they'd come in there and steal that stuff. So yeah. Anyways,
and the point is that you think it's insulated, but you don't necessarily know it's insulated. Go check it once in a while.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely, and it's one it's another reminder to know your house. Go and look around in your house. See what the code is. Talk to your neighbors. What they're doing about their attics and crawl spaces and so on and so forth. They'll probably give you good tips. Maybe they aren't doing anything. Maybe you can help them out, giving them some tips.
Right. And same thing, like I just talked about zone heat. If you've got plumbing upstairs, take a small heater and stick it up there and just let it run. Again, it'll keep it warm enough, right? Warm enough, that you don't get a freeze if you have to. I'm not saying you should do it, but so that's that. One of the other things that, and this came up with one of my neighbors, he actually had a drain line freeze. Now a drain line freeze is really, I think it's kind of rare, actually, because in a sewer system, septic system, there's an amount of heat, not to get gross, but there's an amount of heat that's created in a sewer and septic system that usually keeps drain lines clear. His didn't, and he happened to be dripping his faucet, and guess what? He had a flood because the sink filled up with water and then overflowed. I was like, you got to be kidding me.
Yeah, of all things, if anything can happen, it's going to happen.
It's going to happen.
I mean, that's the thing. So that's the other thing about letting your pipes drip.
Yes. So one of the here we talk about letting the pipe strip all the time. And one of the things I want to say is, does it always work? And I will tell you, not always, because you know this, John. When you live in really cold climates, do rivers freeze?
Yeah. I mean, it depends. It depends upon if it really gets down and it really gets cold soaked. It becomes an issue, no matter what.
Yeah. So just it's being aware. Now my son, he has a line in his house. It happens to be an outside line, but it runs down to his toilet. And he flushed his toilet and it didn't refill. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh
Oh yeah.
no. Right.
Yeah. Here we go.
Right. So long story short, he must have just slushed the line because it didn't burst. Eventually it started refilling again. Thank God. But if your plumbing runs in the outside wall to your toilet, get inside and make the toilet leak the way you don't want it to, where it runs constantly, you know. But how do you do that? Take something and just stick a little piece of something under the flapper. And that'll keep the water running in that toilet, because people don't think about the toilet lines, right, John? Because you think,
I've seen toilets freeze up.
Yeah, you've seen the toilet itself freeze up. Yeah, I have too. Yeah, when in the folks, those of you in the north that have like cottages and stuff understand about winterizing a property, and you always pour antifreeze in your toilets because your traps get full of water, and if you don't put antifreeze in there and they freeze, they break the toilet in half. You know, they'll literally break the ceramic. So you know, for those of us that deal with it, but a lot of people don't know that because they don't deal with that on a regular basis. So yeah, you got to be worried about the toilet too, because the toilet's usually on its own separate line, and it comes down in places that you kind of know, and you don't really think about it. You know, you really don't. It's like I didn't think about it until he said my toilet didn't refill, and thank God it didn't break his line. He's so lucky. He's so lucky.
And I think with all this discussion, I think what I'm going to do, and I had a customer call me up, and they've got their backyard has a real nice pool, and they've got a shower out there, and that thing busted. So they have quite a complicated system. It's a big house, and I should, from now on, I'm going to go down there and map that out for them, because they were all over the place. You know,
trying to
find the valves for the outside, you know, supply lines to the outside. But you know, hey, turn that thing off and I'll fix it later. You know, you're not going to use that anytime soon. But you know, I think that would be a big, you know, for all you handymen out there. I mean, that's a nice little added value for your customers.
Yeah. To help people realize where their stuff is. It's never, folks, that's never going to, if you're a handyman or a handy person contractor or whatever, it's never going to hurt to help your people know where their stuff is. Take the 5 minutes and go teach them, because they need to know, you know? All right. And is there anything else, Johnny?
No, it's just, once again, as long, like I said, know your house. As long as I've lived here, I still don't know all of it, obviously.
Surprise, and same thing with me.
You know,
surprise.
There's always some little something gotcha that came along here, and you know, now it's got me really thinking about some things. So this was a bit of a learning moment. So,
question, John. If the spaceship lands, do you look at it or do you take it apart? What do you do?
Understand that spaceship, Larry. Take it apart. Insulate it.
Insulate. That's right. Yeah, I'm leaving that one alone. Anyway, folks, if you enjoy this show, please tell your friends and neighbors. Send them a link. Let them know. We're always trying to grow listenership. We hope we're bringing you value. If you do have any questions, send us an email, questions@handymanprosradioshow.com. You can sign up for our newsletter at handymanprosradioshow.com. We're on Facebook also, and that's @handymanpros. Appreciate it. We'll see you next week on the Handyman Pros Radio Show.